In the Buddhist Udana Varga it is written, hurt not others with that which pains yourself. And the Hindu Mahabharata says, this is the sum of duty. Treat others as you would like to be treated. Do not do to others that which if done to you would cause you pain. And Muhammad said, no one of you is a believer until you love for your brother or sister what you love for yourself. In the Angad of the Sikhs it is written, treat others as you would be treated yourself, and you shall become a partner in heaven. And finally, from the Gospels of Matthew and Luke, Jesus said, whatsoever you want people to do to you, do so to them, for this is the law and the prophets. Incidentally, the words law and prophets was the ancient Jewish way of saying the Bible. Because the Bible consisted at that time of the Torah and the Nevi'im, the prophets. Later on, by about 100 AD, the Ketuvim, the other writings, were added in. That's why Jewish people refer to the Bible as a Tanakh, T and K, for Torah, Nevi'im, Ketuvim, the law, the prophets, and the writings. So this is one of the ways we know that at that time, when Jesus lived, the other writings had become officially part of the Scripture. Anyway, little known and less cared about facts. The Golden Rule can be found in almost every major religion of the world. The earliest versions of it apparently came from Confucius and Zoroaster, later followed by Hillel from the Jewish tradition, and then Jesus and others. In fact, for those who might be interested in that sort of thing, I brought copies of the Golden Rule in about 10. So if any of you, I'll just leave them up here for you. However, Jesus is the first person we know of to say the Golden Rule in a positive formulation. Positive formulation says, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. The negative formulation says, do not do unto others what you would not have them do unto you. And you know there's a difference between the two. In fact, philosophers have long argued about which is the better rule to follow. Some of them say you'd be better off following the negative formulation, because if you start doing to others whatever you want done to you, they may not like it. As someone once told me, I did something to someone what I wanted done to me, and she slapped me. So some would argue it's safer to follow the negative formulation of the Golden Rule. If you don't do to others what you don't want done to you, you can be pretty sure you won't be hurting people. On the other hand, I have a problem with any moral injunction that just tells you what not to do. If all it takes to be ethical is to not do to someone else what you don't want done to you, then you could be a rock or a refrigerator and be a very ethical being. I mean, rocks usually don't hurt people, not intentionally. They don't build bombs or start wars. People, on the other hand, do. They build bombs and wars, but people also, of course, help people. And they can build peace just as surely as they can build war. A rock can do neither. It is neither moral nor immoral. Doesn't help anyone, doesn't hurt anyone, and if all you ever do is not do to others what you don't want done to you, then you've raised your stuff to the level of a rock. That's why I prefer the positive formulation of the Golden Rule. And to take care of the problem of the other person not wanting done to them what you would want done to you, I always add in the following addition, which some would say make it the Platinum Rule. Platinum being a more precious thing. The Golden Rule with a Platinum edition goes like this. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you, if you were them. Now this takes a little more thought. You have to try to put yourself in their shoes. For example, suppose you prefer to be told when something you do is irritating, So when you find someone else irritating, your first inclination, just tell them how annoying they are. After all, that's what you would want them to do to you if they found you annoying. But the platinum version of the golden rule says you gotta stop and think a moment. Would this person really want to be told? Or another way of phrasing this same thing might be, would I want to be told if I were in that person's shoes? This is a harder thing to figure out, and of course, there's no guarantee you'll always get it right. I think of a little girl I read about whose mother had been sick in bed for several days, and this little girl wanted to do something nice for her mother, something that would make her feel better. And although she was only 6 years old, she knew enough to realize that her mother would want something different than she did. Because she thought, well, if I were sick, I'd want a big bowl of ice cream. And she figured, maybe that wouldn't be what Mom would like. So she decided, well, Mom would like some nice hot tea. So she made some tea and brought it to the bedroom and gave it to her mom and waited to see how her mom liked it. And her mother drank the tea and said, honey, that was so nice of you, to make tea for me, but tell me, how did you make it? Now, the girl was only 6 years old at the time. And this was when they didn't have tea bags. So would a 6-year-old know how to make tea from scratch? And the little girl said, oh, Mommy, I made it just like you do. First, I took the leaves and boiled them, and then I strained them, and then I put the tea into your cup. And the mother said, what did you use to strain the leaves? And the little girl said, well, I couldn't find the strainer you used, so I used the fly swatter. And the mother sort of grimaced, and the little girl could sense that something was wrong, so she said, don't worry, Mommy, I didn't use the new fly swatter. At any rate, the golden rule with the platinum edition says, put yourself in the other person's shoes as far as it is possible and give it your best shot. Now, I need to add one more qualification to the golden rule. So far we have, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, if you were them. But what if what they want done to them isn't good for them? For example, if you're dealing with a child who wants something that you know would be harmful. If you ask your kid, what would you like to bring for lunch every day? It'd probably be just candy. But you know that wouldn't be the best for you. Or let's say, well, this is an extreme case, but let's say you saw a murderer and she would like her gun back. Would you just say, oh, well, do unto others as you have them do unto you, so if I were them. So here's your gun and good luck. But to take a more realistic example, suppose you're at a party and someone there has had too much to drink, but they still want to drive home. If you take away their car keys, you won't be doing unto them what they would want, but you'd still be acting in their best interest, not to mention the interests of the other drivers who might have been victims. To take care of this problem, I offer you an amendment to the Platinum Edition, to the Golden Rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you, if you were them, and you knew what was best for you. Now, even that little amendment can have issues. For example, it is reported that Mother Teresa and her order, when they were in India helping the poor and dying, she taught her nuns to do something rather secretive. She told them that when they were ministering to someone who was dying or in danger of dying, they were to ask the person, do you want a ticket to heaven? If the person said yes, the nun was supposed to baptize them. But she was to baptize them without them knowing it. The nun was told to just pretend to be putting a cold cloth on their forehead and say, I baptize thee in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, very quietly, so they wouldn't know what was happening. It was important to be secretive about this, because if people found out that Mother Teresa was baptizing, her order was baptizing Hindus and Muslims, it would have caused riots. Now, were Mother Teresa and her nuns following the Golden Rule with that amendment? What she was doing, in her mind, which she would want done to her if she were a heathen, so I guess you'd have to say yes. Granted, it's not what her patients would have wanted, but in her mind, it was what was best for her, best for them. Here's another case I found interesting. A member of the church I served in Racine, Underground Church, wanted to support his candidate for public office. So he went to the office of this candidate's opponent every day and he asked for a lawn sign, which he would then take home and throw away. He felt it was a good way to help his candidate by hurting his candidate's opponent. Now, I'm sure he justified it in his mind under the rubric of doing the greatest good for the greatest number, but he was violating the golden rule because he was doing to someone else what he would not have wanted done to him. And here's an example I remember from over 50 years ago, and I still remember it. It concerns a friend of mine at that time, whose name was Kevin. Now, at that time, this is over 50 years ago, Kevin and I and a lot of other young men were studying to be Catholic priests. And in our training, we did chaplaincy work. And in those days, all the chaplains wore Roman collars so that the patients would know that that was a clergy person coming in. And Kevin looked older than the rest of us. So most of the patients he visited thought he actually was a priest. And he talked to one woman one night. She told him her life story, and it was clear to Kevin when she was done that she wanted forgiveness for her sins. So Kevin said, "It sounds like you might want to confess your sins to a priest." And he was going to arrange to have the priest see her. But she said, "I've already made my confession, Father." Then he realized that she thought he was a priest. And she just poured out her soul to him, and he realized it would be very difficult for her to do that again with a stranger. And although according to Catholic doctrine, since he wasn't a priest, he didn't have the power to grant her absolution, he said the words of absolution anyway, as well as he could remember them. He forgave her sins so he could save her the pain of having to confess them again to someone else. Now, the problem I have with this particular example is that from my point of view, what Kevin did didn't hurt anybody. That's because I believe God wouldn't send people to hell just for not confessing their sins to a real priest. So the woman wasn't hurt from my point of view. But from the woman's point of view, confessing it to a real priest made all the difference in the world. According to her belief, if she committed a serious sin and she never confessed it to a priest, then when she died, unless she had perfect contrition, which is hard to do, she would go to hell. Now, from my point of view, that's silly. But from her point of view, it's the truth. And I must say, I wouldn't want someone lying to me because they thought what I believed was stupid, so I didn't need to know the truth. Now, there are some other problems with the golden rule. For example, it says do unto others, but it doesn't say what to do when there are two different groups of others, right, who want or need different things. For example, a woman I used to know through the local chapter of the National Organization for Women, or now, she once told me about a dilemma she had. She told me that she was pro-choice, but her daughter was pro-life. And she said her daughter often won prizes in speech contests when she talked on this subject. So his mother told me that when her daughter asked her to listen to her speech and give her some advice on how to improve it, it was kind of a dilemma for her. Should she help her daughter give a really good speech so she'd get a better grade, maybe win a prize? That would be good for the daughter, she figured. But it would legitimize a moral view that she did not agree with and make it more persuasive to the people in the audience, which is something that we really didn't want to do. You see, the golden rule says to do unto others as you would have them do unto you if you were them. But it doesn't tell you what others should take priority when there's a conflict. That's a decision you have to make using other criteria. Still, I would say that despite its limitations, the golden rule is the best ethical guide I have ever come across, with the platinum edition, the Tony Larsen amendment. Anyway, I like the golden rule, and it's interesting to me that it's present in 10 of the 11 major religions of the world, as well as many other sources. It's almost as if people from all over the world, despite their differences about how many gods there are, or what foods you should eat, or how you should perform religious service, despite all these differences, there was one thing they could all agree on, shining through the fog of ritual and custom: the golden rule. Now, some would say, I suppose, that whatever these religions agree on must be their lowest common denominator, as if it were one of the easier things to believe. But I prefer to think of it this way: the golden rule is the highest common denominator. I got that from a rabbi friend of mine. He said, people, you'll say, it's the highest common denominator. It's high enough that despite its simple formulation, it's one of the hardest things we ever do in our life. I know that if someone comes up to me, for example, and says some mean or nasty things, it's pretty hard for me to put myself in their shoes and respond in a way that would be beneficial to them. That's really hard. And it's hard partly because there's no guarantee the other person will even appreciate you for it. You may have heard the story of it was a Methodist church that was trying to help a needy family in their neighborhood. Now the family said they didn't have any decent clothing so that they could wear to church. They obviously hadn't been here. But anyway, in those days it was so they didn't come to church because they didn't have good clothing. So the church collected enough money to buy a little wardrobe for the entire family. But the family still didn't come to church. And one of the Methodists went over to them and said, "We thought you'd come to our church once you had some clothes you liked. Didn't you like what we bought you?" And the mother said, "Oh, we really liked the clothes. In fact, they were so fine that after we put them on, we decided we looked so good we have to go to the Episcopal church." So there's no guarantee that the people you do good unto will make it worth your while. But I say, it's worth your while, whether you're appreciated for it or not, because you are a better person when you treat others the way you would like to be treated if you were them and you knew what was best for you. Let me close with an incident from World War I again. This one's always inspired me. A wounded French soldier was staggering back into the trenches on the French side, and he told the rabbi, who was a chaplain to the French forces, that there was a Catholic out between them and the enemy line. And the Catholic, he said, was dying and asked for a priest to come with a cross and pray over him and do the last rites. But no one could find the priest, and they weren't sure where he was. So the rabbi, who was incidentally the Grand Rabbi of Lyon, improvised a cross out of the materials he had at hand as quickly as he could, and he went himself out to the dying soldier. And he just started to hold the cross over the man and say a few words of prayer when he was shot and killed. And the bodies of the Catholic and the Jew were later found together. All because the rabbi was willing to put himself in the Catholic's shoe and do for the Catholic what he would have wanted done for him if he were Catholic. And he gave his life following the highest common denominator of the world's religions, the Golden Rule. I could end here, but I'm not going to. You know what I do? If I'm debating whether to include something, I staple it with a question mark on it, and I do it or not. Okay, I think the most important reason I like the Golden Rule is that it does more than tell you what to do. There are other rules that tell you that. Don't lie or steal or hurt, or be good, be generous. But the Golden Rule doesn't tell you what to do. It doesn't just tell you what to do. It tells you who you are. If you do unto others as you would have them do unto you, then you let yourself get into their skin, so to speak. You walk in their shoes. You become bigger than who you were. And there's no division between you and them. You are connected. And that's what the Golden Rule is telling you. It's giving you a method to help you realize that you are connected with this person and with all people. So to do unto others as you would have them do unto you is not just an ethical rule, it's a spiritual discipline. I admit you won't always get into another person's shoes and have a perfect fit. And sometimes when you try to, you may, with the best of intentions, strain your teeth through an old fly swatter. But that won't matter much in the long run, because when you see the world through someone else's eyes, you are participating in our highest common denominator. As the Hindus would remind us, Namaste. Nama means I bow to, stay is a divinity in you. Namaste means I bow to the place in you where if you're in that place in you and I'm in that place in me, there's only one of us. Namaste, my friends. Now let us pass the collection plate to support.